He protected the enemy's daughter. Now her mother refuses to let him go. The planet Ryloth 7 burned under the light of twin suns, its scarred surface a testament to decades of war. Dust swirled around jagged rocks, and the faint hum of distant engines marked the approach of enemy forces. Lieutenant Cale Ryder crouched behind a jagged outcrop, scanning the horizon with a mix of determination and anxiety. His human strike team had been sent on a mission that most alien commanders considered a suicide run, intercepting a convoy belonging to the feared warlord Velira. Cale had never been one to underestimate danger, but the stories he had heard about Velira's fleet made even hardened soldiers uneasy. Velira's forces were disciplined, ruthless, and relentless, yet here Cale stood, knowing that humans were always underestimated. That had been his advantage for years. "Team positions," he whispered into his comm. His voice was steady, calm, carrying the authority of someone who had lived through worse than most of his squad mates. "Remember, precision, we strike, we retreat, no heroics." The rocks rattled as the convoy approached, alien transports gliding across the dust like dark predators. But then Cale noticed something unusual, a small figure stumbling along the sand, separate from the main convoy. It was a child, barely older than 10, her long silver hair catching the sunlight as she struggled to remain upright. Her eyes were wide with fear, and she clutched something tightly to her chest. Cale's instincts screamed at him. "Hold position," he murmured, but a pang of humanity twisted his command. That child was alone, vulnerable. The convoy's guards had not noticed her yet, and Cale made a split-second decision. He would save her. "Move," he whispered into the comms, signaling his team. They obeyed, silent as shadows. The humans slid over the rough terrain, using the jagged rocks for cover. Cale's heart pounded as they closed in, careful to avoid detection. The child had stumbled again, and Cale saw her face, her fear, her innocence, and something else, recognition. Before the convoy could reach her, Cale sprinted forward. He scooped her up, holding her close as she let out a startled cry. I'm not your enemy," he said softly, though the words were more for himself than for her. The sound of blaster fire snapped him back to reality. The convoy's guards had noticed the human intrusion. Cale ducked behind a rock, the child pressed to his chest. "Stay down." "Don't move," he instructed, keeping his tone calm even as blaster bolts sizzled past them. The humans around him returned fire, suppressing the aliens while Cale calculated their next move. "Ryder, they're flanking us," one of his squad mates yelled. "Keep them busy," Cale replied. He scanned the area and saw a narrow canyon to their left. It would give them cover, and if they could reach it, they might escape. He took a deep breath, calculating the risk. With the child in his arms, speed was crucial. He ran, leaping over rocks and dodging fire. The aliens shouted in a language Cale did not understand, but the tone was unmistakable: anger, surprise, and something else. Confusion. Humans were unpredictable, even to them. That had always been Cale's advantage. They reached the canyon's mouth, but it was a dead end. The child clung to him tightly, her small body trembling. Cale turned to see the alien commander, a tall figure with gleaming armor pointing directly at him. "You will return her," the alien barked, voice cold and commanding. Cale clenched his jaw. He had no choice. The humans opened fire, forcing the aliens to take cover while Cale looked for another escape route. His mind raced. The canyon was narrow, but it led to a series of tunnels carved long ago by the planet's native inhabitants. It was risky, but it might be their only chance. He darted forward, weaving between rocks, the child holding on as if her life depended on him, because it did. The tunnel entrance was small, barely noticeable, but Cale slipped inside first, then gently guided the girl through. Darkness enveloped them, broken only by the faint glow from his helmet light. Who are you?" the child whispered, her voice shaking. "I'm Cale," he said softly. "I'm here to help you. You're safe with me." Her silver eyes searched his face, looking for a lie, and for a moment Cale wondered if the child had been taught to fear everyone. Finally, she nodded slightly, though her grip on him did not loosen. Outside, the sounds of pursuit echoed, but Cale's team had set traps, slowing the alien forces. Humans had a strange way of surviving, Cale thought grimly. They were unpredictable, clever, and when cornered, resourceful in ways no alien could anticipate. Hours passed as they navigated the winding tunnels. The child, whom Cale learned was named Lyra, finally allowed herself to speak. She told him fragments of her life, stories of a warlord mother, a fleet that ruled star systems with fear, and a longing for a childhood she had never fully known. Kale listened, understanding more about why her mother would be so determined to reclaim her. Eventually, they emerged into a hidden valley far from the convoy's reach. Kale set Lyra down gently, letting her catch her breath. The humans around him remained alert, scanning for any sign of pursuit. "You're safe for now," Kale said. He looked at her, seeing both fear and trust in her eyes. "I'll keep you safe, Lyra. No one will hurt you while I'm here." Lyra nodded, though her small hands trembled. Kale could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He had saved a child, but in doing so, he had set himself on a collision course with one of the galaxy's most feared leaders. As the suns began to set, casting a golden glow over the valley, Kale knew the real challenge was only beginning. He had protected the enemy's daughter, but now the question loomed. What would her mother do when she found out? And Kale, human and underestimated, was about to show the galaxy that humans were not to be dismissed. The night was silent, but Kale could hear it in the wind, the distant hum of engines, the inevitability of confrontation. Somewhere out there, Valira would be searching. Somewhere out there, a mother would be furious. But for now, Kale held his ground. For now, Lyra was safe. The valley was quiet under the pale light of Ryloth's 7 twin moons. Kale Ryder sat near a small fire, Lyra curled beside him. The girl's breathing had slowed, but her eyes remained alert, scanning the shadows beyond the firelight. Kale understood the fear. It was not just the memory of battle, but the anticipation of what was to come. Her mother, the feared warlord Valira, would not let her go easily. Kale's team moved silently through the valley, checking the perimeter. Human instincts and training had turned the seemingly empty space into a defensible position, but Kale knew it was only a matter of time before Valira arrived. And when she did, it would not be a negotiation she approached lightly. He knelt beside Lyra. "Do you understand what might happen when your mother comes?" he asked softly. Lyra nodded, her small fingers gripping the edge of her tunic. She will be angry. She will want me back." Kale sighed. "Yes, and she might try to take you by force, but we won't let her." "Not unless you choose to go with her." The girl's eyes glistened. I don't want to leave you." Kale smiled faintly, though worry gnawed at him. "And I don't want you hurt. That's why we stay ready. That's why we watch and wait." Hours passed. Kale and his team maintained strict vigilance, and the humans' quiet confidence seemed to infuriate Lyra's pursuers even more. Then, as dawn approached, a ripple of light appeared on the horizon, Valira's flagship descending through the atmosphere. It was massive, black and silver, humming with power and authority. Kale felt the familiar surge of adrenaline. This was it. The confrontation could no longer be delayed. Valira herself emerged from the ship, tall and imposing, her silver hair like Lyra's but streaked with streaks of steel gray. Her armor glinted under the weak sunlight, a symbol of power and command. Her presence alone made the humans tense, but Kale stood his ground unshaken. Humans were underestimated for a reason. They thrived where others relied on fear. "Lieutenant Ryder," Valira said, her voice cold but not angry, "you have something that belongs to me." Kale's hand rested lightly near his sidearm. "I have someone who needs protection," he replied evenly. "She is safe here and no one will hurt her while I'm around." Valira's eyes narrowed, studying him. "You saved her from my convoy. I could destroy your team for that alone." "And yet you didn't," Kale said, noting her pause. "You're here to negotiate." Valira studied him a long moment before speaking again. "You are different from what I expected of your species. Humans are supposed to be reckless, expendable, and easily frightened. Yet here you stand, protecting my daughter with loyalty, courage, and skill. Why?" Kale looked at Lyra, then back at Valira. "Because she is a child, because humans fight for more than territory or orders, because sometimes we fight for what is right." For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Then Valira spoke, her tone sharp but not unkind. "I will not take her by force, not yet, but understand this. You have bought us time, human, time that I will not forget. I will be watching every step you take." Kale nodded. "I expect no less." Valira turned, signaling her fleet to remain in orbit. It was a warning and a promise simultaneously. As she departed, Kale exhaled, though he remained vigilant. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes wide with wonder and relief. You could have been hurt," she whispered. "I know," Kale said, "but sometimes being brave is the only choice we have." The following days were tense. Kale and his team fortified their position, creating false trails, traps, and escape routes. The humans' ingenuity came alive. They used local flora to create camouflage, improvised signal jammers from scavenged alien tech, and even crafted decoys to confuse any search parties. Each success, each clever maneuver, was a small victory, reinforcing the truth that humans could survive and adapt where others failed. Lyra, meanwhile, began to learn from Kale. She watched how he observed, calculated, and acted decisively. She mimicked some of his strategies, small tests of courage that Kale encouraged. With each passing day, a bond formed between protector and child that was deeper than fear. It was trust, respect, and for Kale, a profound sense of responsibility. Then came the message. A transmission, short and precise, from Velira herself. It was not a threat, not exactly, but a challenge. "Human, I will come again, be ready." Kale read it aloud to his team. "She's coming." So we have to be ready, not just to defend, but to prove that humans are not what she thinks. Preparations began in earnest. Kale led drills, briefed his team on possible ambushes, and devised contingency plans. Every day became a test of wits, endurance, and courage. And every day, Lyra's admiration for him grew, though she understood the stakes were immense. Finally, the day arrived. Velira's fleet descended, sleek warships cutting through the atmosphere with deadly precision. Kale's team took their positions. The valley, which had seemed tranquil, became a battlefield of strategy and intellect. Kale stayed calm, his human adaptability coming to the fore. Where the aliens relied on brute force and predictable formations, Kale anticipated, misled, and outmaneuvered. Lyra watched from a safe vantage point, learning without knowing it. She saw human strength was not only physical but mental, their ability to think creatively under pressure, to improvise, to adapt instantly. Every decoy, every trap, every calculated move demonstrated what Kale had always known. Humans were underestimated at their peril. When Velira herself arrived on the ground, accompanied by elite guards, Kale faced her openly. No fear, only determination. "We don't want to fight you," he said, his voice steady. "We want to protect the child, and if you choose to attack, know this: humans never fight alone, and we never give up." Velira studied him, a flicker of something like respect crossing her features. Then she smiled faintly, almost imperceptibly. "Perhaps you are as remarkable as they say," she murmured. The standoff lasted hours. Kale's team held positions, using strategy rather than brute force to control the battlefield. Velira tested them, probing for weaknesses, but found none. Human adaptability, creativity, and courage proved superior in small, decisive ways. Finally, Velira called a halt. "You have earned my attention," she said. "Not all humans are expendable, it seems. You will not be harmed today, Ryder, but remember this: one mistake and I will take her and you will regret it." Kale nodded. "Understood." As Velira departed, her fleet lifting into the sky, Lyra ran to Kale and threw her arms around him. "You kept me safe," she whispered. Kale hugged her back. "Always, that's what humans do." In the aftermath, Kale knew the battle was only one of many. The galaxy was vast, and enemies would continue to test them. But this victory, small as it was, proved something vital. Humans were not to be underestimated. They were clever, adaptable, brave, and above all, capable of loyalty and courage that no alien could fully understand until it was too late. Kale looked at Lyra, then at the horizon where Velira's fleet had disappeared. For now, peace had returned. But he knew this was only the beginning, and somewhere deep inside he felt a quiet satisfaction. Humanity had once again proven itself, not with sheer firepower, but with ingenuity, resilience, and heart. Lyra's hand found his, small and trusting, and Kale understood the weight of his promise. He would protect her, no matter the cost. And the galaxy would remember why humans were feared, respected, and never to be underestimated. As the suns rose, casting light on the scarred valley, Kale and his team prepared to move forward. The galaxy was uncertain, dangerous, and full of enemies, but humans had a way of thriving where others faltered. And that was exactly what Kale intended to do. The valley had grown quiet again, but Kale Ryder did not trust the silence. He had learned long ago that stillness often came before the storm. The alien warlord Velira had withdrawn, but her warning echoed in his mind. One mistake, and she would take Lyra. Kale had seen the galaxy's worst, and he knew that underestimated humans often paid the highest price. Kale's team moved efficiently, securing their temporary base near a cluster of jagged cliffs. The humans were restless but disciplined, their eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the enemy. They had learned quickly that the key to survival on Ryloth 7 was adaptability, creativity, and staying one step ahead of the aliens' predictable patterns. Lyra stayed close to Kale, her small hand brushing against his as they navigated the rocky terrain. She had grown more confident in the past weeks, but there was still fear in her eyes. Kale understood it. She had been torn from everything familiar, thrust into a world where survival meant cleverness and courage, qualities humans excelled in, but ones she had yet to fully learn. "Kale," Lyra whispered, breaking the silence, "do you think my mother will ever understand why you saved me?" Kale looked down at her, his eyes softening. "I don't know. Some people are so focused on power that they can't see what's right in front of them. But I do know this. Humans see it. We see what matters, and that's why we fight for it." The girl nodded, though her grip on his arm tightened. Kale knew she would need more than words. She would need proof that humans were more than soldiers. They were protectors, thinkers, and fighters capable of surprising even the galaxy's fiercest warriors. The first sign of trouble came at dawn. Sensors picked up movement far across the valley, barely noticeable against the rocky landscape. Kale squinted against the pale light. The movement was deliberate, coordinated, Velira's scouts. "Stay sharp," Kale ordered, his voice low but steady. "They're testing us." His team took positions, blending into the terrain with skill honed from countless missions. Humans were not just adaptable, they were unpredictable. The scouts approached, confident in their numbers, but Kale had set traps and misleading signals that would force them into disadvantageous positions. When the scouts reached the first ridge, they found it seemingly abandoned. But as they advanced, hidden sensors triggered decoys that emitted false signals. Rocks shifted to create illusions of additional troops. Blinding flashes from carefully positioned reflective surfaces disoriented the aliens. The humans had transformed the valley into a maze, a battlefield that relied on strategy and ingenuity rather than brute strength. Kale observed quietly from his vantage point. Every alien move was anticipated, every weakness exploited. Humans thrived in situations like this. They were not the strongest species, but they were clever, relentless, and adaptive in ways few could match. The scouts withdrew, reporting their failure. Kale allowed himself a brief nod of satisfaction. It was not a victory in the traditional sense, but it was a proof point. Humans could outthink, outmaneuver, and survive when the odds were stacked against them. Days passed. Lyra grew more curious, asking questions about Kale's strategies, the humans' technology, and why they never gave up. Kale answered patiently, teaching her the principles of observation, patience, and improvisation. Each lesson was small, but it built her confidence. She was learning what it meant to survive with intelligence and courage, just as humans did. Then the real challenge arrived. Velira's fleet returned, larger and more imposing than before. She had not come for negotiation. This was a show of power, a warning that she would not be outmaneuvered indefinitely. Ships glided across the sky, casting long shadows over the valley. Kale's team readied themselves, weapons charged, defenses in place. Velira's landing was precise, her ship touching down with a hum that sent vibrations through the valley floor. She stepped out, her presence commanding, every movement calculated. Her eyes scanned the humans, then rested on Kale. "Lieutenant Ryder," she said, her voice echoing in the valley, "you have proven skill, but skill alone will not protect her forever." Kale stood tall, unwavering. "Humans do not rely on skill alone. We rely on ingenuity, courage, and loyalty, and I am loyal to her." Velira's eyes flickered, a mixture of admiration and frustration. "You are reckless, human. You risk everything for someone who is not yours. Why?" Kale met her gaze without hesitation. "Because it is right, and because humans fight for more than power. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves." The tension was palpable. Velira's elite guards moved forward, testing the humans' resolve, but Kale's team remained calm. Every trap, every decoy, every defensive position was ready. The humans had created a battlefield that leveraged their strengths, speed, unpredictability, and intelligence against a superior force. The first clash was brief but telling. The humans used the terrain to their advantage, forcing the aliens into narrow paths and ambush points. Blaster fire echoed, but Kale's team did not panic. They moved like a single organism, anticipating and adapting, turning Velira's strength against her. Lyra watched, wide-eyed but inspired. She saw humans' courage not in reckless attacks, but in precise, calculated actions. Every move Kale made demonstrated patience, intelligence, and fearlessness. The aliens underestimated humans once again, and it was their mistake. Hours passed with skirmishes and maneuvers. Kale led a small squad to flank a group of elite guards, using makeshift bridges and hidden paths to strike unexpectedly. The humans' strategy forced the aliens into retreat, though no one expected to win outright. Finally, Velira stepped forward, her presence alone halting the skirmish. "Enough," she commanded. "You have proven yourself. Your actions have shown me what I did not expect. Humans are not weak, expendable creatures. You are clever, adaptable, and courageous." "You have protected what is important," Kale nodded. "That is what humans do. We protect what matters, no matter the cost." For a long moment, Velira studied him. Then she spoke, softer now, almost reluctantly. "I will not take her today, Ryder. You have earned my respect. But understand this, you will always be watched." Lyra ran to Kale, throwing her arms around him. "You kept me safe," she cried. Kale held her tightly. "Always," he said. "No matter what happens, I will protect you." Velira's fleet lifted off slowly, leaving the valley. Kale allowed himself a brief moment to breathe. The humans had won not through firepower, but through intelligence, courage, and unwavering loyalty. They had shown that even when underestimated, humans could achieve the impossible. In the days that followed, Kale and his team prepared to leave Ryloth 7. Lyra had grown more confident, learning the value of patience, observation, and ingenuity. She was no longer a helpless child, but someone who had seen firsthand what humans were capable of. Kale reflected on everything that had happened. They had faced impossible odds, a formidable enemy, and yet humans had prevailed. Not through strength alone, but through adaptability, cleverness, and heart. The galaxy would remember this, and perhaps the next time someone underestimated humanity, they would think twice. As they prepared to leave the valley, Kale looked at Lyra. "You are brave," he said, "and you will survive no matter what comes." She smiled, a mixture of relief and pride. "And you?" she asked. Kale chuckled softly. "Humans never give up," he replied. "That's why we're dangerous, and that's why we survive." With the rising suns illuminating the jagged cliffs, the humans departed Ryloth 7. Behind them, the valley lay silent, a testament to resilience, strategy, and courage. And ahead of them, the galaxy awaited, a vast, dangerous place where humanity's ingenuity and heart would always make them stand out. For Kale, Ryder, and Lyra, the journey was far from over. But one thing was certain. Humans, underestimated for centuries, had proven once more that they were capable of brilliance, bravery, and protection that no one, not even the fiercest alien warlord, could ignore. And somewhere beyond the horizon, Velira's eyes watched, acknowledging, finally, that humans were a force unlike any other in the galaxy. The stars glimmered coldly above the human transport as it glided silently through the dark reaches of space. Lieutenant Kale Ryder sat in the cockpit, his eyes scanning the navigational displays. Lyra, now more composed and alert than she had been weeks ago, rested in the co-pilot's seat beside him. Her silver hair shimmered faintly in the soft glow of the control panels. Though she was still young, she had learned quickly from Kale, picking up lessons about observation, patience, and clever thinking. Kale had not slept in days. Ryloth 7 was behind them, but the galaxy was wide, and danger followed like a shadow. Velira's warning haunted him. She respected him, yes, but she had also made it clear, one misstep and Lyra would be taken. Kale knew better than to underestimate her resolve. Humans were clever, but they were not invincible. "Kale," Lyra said quietly, breaking the silence, "do you think my mother will ever truly trust me?" Kale considered the question, fingers drumming against the control panel. "Trust is hard, Lyra. Some people never fully understand why someone chooses to do the right thing. But humans, we don't always wait for trust. We act anyway, and sometimes that's enough to show who we are." Lyra nodded slowly. "I want to be brave like you." Kale allowed himself a small smile. "You already are. Bravery isn't about not feeling fear. It's about what you do when you feel it. You've proven that over and over." Their conversation was interrupted by a soft ping from the sensors. Kale's eyes flicked to the readout. A small vessel, cloaked but detectable, was approaching fast. He stiffened. "We have company," he said, voice steady, "and I don't think they're here to trade supplies." Lyra's eyes widened. "Is it her?" Kale shook his head. "Not yet, but someone is testing us, and we need to be ready." The transport shifted, entering a defensive posture as Kale and his team prepared for an interception. The vessel decloaked partially, revealing a sleek black scout ship, faster and smaller than anything Kale had faced before. He activated the ship's defensive systems and maneuvered quickly, keeping the approaching craft in his sights. The scout fired first, a rapid volley of energy blasts that Kale dodged with precise adjustments to the ship's thrusters. He returned fire not to destroy, but to disable the ship's engines. Humans were unpredictable, and that unpredictability was their advantage. Every move Kale made combined instinct, experience, and careful calculation. The scout dodged his initial attack, weaving through the void like a shadow. Kale realized the pilot was skilled, too skilled for a standard scout. He guessed correctly. Valira had sent a highly trained agent to test him, to measure the human's limits. "Lyra, stay low," he instructed. "This is going to get tricky." She obeyed, gripping her seat as Kale engaged the ship in a series of complex maneuvers. Humans had never been the fastest, nor the most heavily armed, but they were clever. Kale used the environment, the gravitational pull of nearby asteroids, and even the light from distant stars to create blind spots, confusing the scout. Finally, Kale found an opening. He disabled the ship's engines with a precision strike and forced it to drift toward the nearest asteroid belt. The scout's pilot attempted to regain control, but failed. Kale allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. Human ingenuity had once again prevailed, even against superior technology. The scout ejected its pilot in a small escape pod which Kale intercepted. He was surprised to find a young alien, no more than Lyra's age, frightened and confused. Kale's instincts did not waver. "I won't hurt you," he said gently. "You're safe." The alien blinked up at him, unsure what to make of a human protecting even those trained to fight him. Kale realized something important. Loyalty, courage, and protection were not limited to human or alien. They were universal traits, but humans seemed to wield them in ways others underestimated. Days passed in relative calm, but Kale knew this was only temporary. Valira was calculating, patient, and persistent. She would test him again, and this time the stakes might be higher. Kale spent the time training Lyra further, teaching her navigation, basic piloting skills, and the fundamentals of strategy. She was quick to learn, absorbing each lesson with determination. One evening, as the twin moons of a nearby planet cast silver light across the ship's deck, Lyra asked, "Kale, why do you risk so much for me? I'm not your daughter, I'm not even human." Kale looked at her, his expression thoughtful. "Because protecting someone is never about blood or species. It's about doing what's right. Humans fight for more than themselves, Lyra. We fight for those who cannot protect themselves. That's who we are." Her eyes shone with understanding, and Kale felt a quiet pride. The girl had grown stronger, braver, and smarter in ways that would have surprised anyone who underestimated her. The calm did not last. Weeks later, Valira herself appeared in orbit, her massive flagship blocking the light of the nearby sun. Kale's sensors picked up hundreds of smaller craft accompanying her. She had come personally this time. Kale's team mobilized immediately. He took Lyra to a secure chamber, explaining the plan. "We defend, we adapt, and we survive," he said. "Humans do this better than anyone else." The first wave of alien fighters approached, sleek and aggressive. Kale maneuvered the transport expertly, dodging fire and using nearby asteroid fields for cover. The humans' counterattacks were precise, targeting weak points and creating confusion. Valira watched from orbit, noting every move, impressed by the humans' ability to adapt under pressure. Then she landed on a nearby moon, her presence alone a statement of authority. Kale realized the confrontation was no longer just tactical, it was personal. She wanted to see him, to measure his loyalty, courage, and cunning firsthand. Kale and his team executed a series of clever maneuvers, using decoys, traps, and timing to divide the alien forces. Every step, every decision, demonstrated the human ability to think creatively under pressure. Valira's forces, while superior in numbers and firepower, struggled against tactics they could not anticipate. Finally, Valira herself confronted Kale on the moon's surface. The air shimmered with tension. Lyra watched from a safe distance, heart pounding. Kale stood tall, facing the warlord without fear. "You are persistent, human," Valira said, her tone sharp. "But bravery alone does not win battles." Kale met her gaze steadily. "Bravery, intelligence, and loyalty combined can win more than battles. They can earn respect, trust, and survival, and humans have plenty of all three." Valira studied him long and hard. The standoff was tense, unbroken by words or movement. Then finally she nodded. You have proven yourself. You have protected your charge with ingenuity, courage, and determination. I will not interfere further for now. But remember, human, this galaxy is larger and more dangerous than you know. Kale nodded. We'll be ready. The standoff ended without bloodshed. Lyra ran to Kale, relief and pride shining in her eyes. You kept me safe again? She exclaimed. Kale smiled, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. Always, that's what humans do. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. As Velira's fleet departed, the stars returned to their usual quiet shimmer. Kale knew this victory was temporary, but it was significant. Humans had once again shown that courage, cleverness, and loyalty could overcome seemingly impossible odds. They had survived, adapted, and outsmarted a powerful enemy without losing their principles. Kale looked at Lyra, then at the stars beyond. The galaxy is full of challenges, Lyra, but humans never give up. We survive and we protect. That's who we are. Lyra nodded, her confidence growing. I will remember that. I will be brave too. Kale allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. Humanity had proven its worth once more, not with brute force, but with intelligence, courage, and heart. And as they set course for their next destination, he knew that no matter what the galaxy threw at them, humans would endure, and those who underestimated them would learn to respect the strength of their spirit. The stars stretched endlessly before them, but Kale Ryder and his team moved forward, ready to face whatever came next. The galaxy was dangerous, unpredictable, and full of enemies, but humans thrived in ways others could not anticipate, and that was their greatest strength. Lyra, sitting beside Kale, watched the stars with a mixture of awe and determination. I want to be ready for whatever comes, she said softly. Kale smiled, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You already are, and together we'll face it all. That's the human way. This concludes Part 4, roughly 2,000 words, continuing the HFY theme with engaging action, strategy, and